Hey greedy 3Ds, it's not often I do something from The Lord of the Rings, but today we're going to be making Tauriel from said Tolkien's classic. I got this from VXLabs Arts and it is an amazing sculpt. They've done a fantastic job on it. It's gone together beautifully and I'll show you how I painted old Tauriel up here. Stay tuned. It's important to prep your models before you get to that painting stage, so just take a nice piece of sandpaper. Here I'm using some 400 grit and I'm just getting rid of all the nubbins and nobbins and bits of supports that are still there, and I'm giving it a really good scrub all over. Really do not miss this stage because your end result will look bad if you miss it, and this will only take you 10-15 minutes ideally, so make sure you give it a real good blast all over. And when you've done that, a test fit is also imperative. You don't want to be trying to glue them together and realising they don't fit, and look at the standard of that. Wow, that is on the Uniformation GK2 using some Jam J Standard Pro resin, and it's come out wonderfully. Now it needs a brush over to get the little bits off before I put a base layer on, but the actual print itself looks incredible. So chuffed. VXLabs have done a great job. It's printed well, and now I'm going to prime it with a little bit of Chaos Black from Citadel. So we're putting some base Vallejo skin tone down, and this is going to be the only airbrushed skin tone that goes on there, just this one colour which we're going to work on, and that is what it looks like after two really light coats. I don't want to plaster it on, I don't want to lose the detail. Two light clear coats so far. Now pop that head to one side and let it to dry thoroughly, and I'm just going to work on the boots here while that's drying, giving them a base layer of some oak brown all across. And now the head has dried, I'm going to seal it with a bit of crystal clear from Rust-Oleum. I want to protect this basic skin tone for what I'm going to do next, which is apply some washes, a red and a yellow wash. These colours from Vallejo mixed down to around about 75% water, 25% paint, and I'm going to work the yellow right into the face, into the ears and nooks and nose and crannies and everywhere else. And once it's on there and you've worked it into the face, take a piece of kitchen roll or a Q-tip if you can't get in an earbud and get it off. You want to get 99% of this off. You just want to leave a yellow stain across the skin really, and that's with it off. Now you can see there's just a yellow tint. I need to get a little bit more off, but work on all the other areas of the skin, the chest and the hands and everything else. We want everything to be uniformed, and again dab it off once it's on there and you've worked it in. Now we're going to move on to the red, exactly the same process, and you can see me using one of those precision bottles, and if you want one of these precision bottles, they're fantastic. I'll put a link in the description for where you can get them from. So working in the red now, don't forget to get it right into the ears as well and take it off, and those are the two colours you need on there to give the face a little bit of vibrance, a little bit of glow, just to add some of that wonderful colour. And you can see the yellow and the red quite clearly in there. Now I'm taking some of this flesh base tone from Panzer Aces and I'm going to pop it onto a brush. I've diluted it down ever so slightly, and I'm going to use this brush to fleckle and speckle some freckles onto her face. Now don't overdo it, don't put big splodges on there, but just give it a little bit of a freckly look, and use this darker colour, this smoky ink, exactly the same way. Again, get the excess off on a bit of a kitchen roll and work a few more in there. If you put too many on there, just take a tiny bit of cotton bud and just wipe them off, and there you can see now the face is starting to look a little bit more realistic. Now what I've done here is I've masked everything off with a little bit of masking tape, and again this masking tape is brilliant, it comes in different sizes, and I'll put a link in the description to protect the leather brown that's under there that I've given a coat of. And what you can see me doing here is just filling those gaps that when I've joined the pieces together, I've noticed some gaps. So I want to get rid of those at this stage, and I'm going to work on a dress now, and I'm going to use some Angel Green, which is an air paint from Army Painter, and I'm going to give that a complete coat over. I don't want to make it too thick. I'm quite happy with some of that black coming through, and Exile Green is one of the highlighted areas of paint from the triad colour of this Angel Green, and I'm just going to put this on some of the areas where the light would catch it. So just use a little bit of artistic license there, but get this lighter green on, and the dark colour and the light colour will work against each other and make it look fantastic. And to add some shadow, I'm just taking Drakenhof Nightshade, working from below up, and I'm just putting it into the folds of her costume, and you can see now that she's got three lovely colours on there, and that's the dress done and dusted. Really pleased with how this green has come out. We might just do a little bit of dry brushing on it later, but looking good for now. Now to do a face, just to add a little bit of blush on there, I'm using some chalks or some pastels, and I'm just going to take a brush, a nice dry brush, pop a little bit of red on there and pop it across her face. This is a great way of putting on maybe a bit of blusher, maybe a bit of eyeshadow, and just adding a little bit of colour into her face. Now the good thing with this is it will come off, so if you make a bit of a mistake you can just brush it off, but don't forget, once you put this on and you're happy, you need to seal it with clear sealer to make sure it stays on. Now to do the eyes, I'm going to use some black, and I'm going to go right across all of the eyes, including the upper parts of the eyelid, the lower parts of the eyelid, and just at the very tops of the eyes and the edges. I want to give it a complete coat all the way across. Be careful though, don't get this on your skin tone. And while that's drying, I'm just using a little bit of pink paint here, just some red. Well, you can see it there we go, it's like a reddy pinky colour, and I'm going to paint her lips in. Now the black's dried, I'm going to be popping some of that white in there and just getting it to the where I want the whites of her eyes to be. Now it's not white, it's white with a hint of grey or a hint of blue, and that's what she looks like, with a bit of colour on her cheeks, her lips done, and her eyes black and her eyes white. Really chuffed. Now if you pop the face, the head on the model, you can see she's looking to her left, so I want the pupils and the irises to go in that direction as well. So I'm just going to use a very fine pen, and I'm painting the irises in with a little hint of blue in there, dark blue and light blue, and then I'm going to drop in, just dollop in a pupil, and that's the eyes pretty much done, apart from a bit of pink below and a bit of pink on the edges in the corners. Now some dry rust is what I'm using for her hair, and I'm using it on a flat brush, and I'm just going to pop this right the way across. This will be the base layer for her hair. Don't worry about the face looking a little bit over red at the moment, because I'm going to tone it back down a little bit with a dry brush. But there you go. The hair is on, one single coat, just where it joins the skin. You don't want it too solid, leave a little bit of the skin tone coming through, and that's the hair done and dusted for stage one. We're going to need to give it another layer of this orange because it's a bit patchy. Now while that's all drying, taking some Vallejo clear coat and just painting it into the eyes and onto the lips, just to give those a shiny look. And as you can see, the eyes look great. Now the eyebrows, I'm going to give them a little coat of brown as well, just to make them stick out, which I don't think I caught on camera. And there she is, just drying nicely, looking really lovely. Happy with that. Now Corpse Pale is what I'm going to be using to paint a belt, and what I wanted to do with the belt is give it a little bit of a different shade, because it sits in the middle of the model a little bit, so I just want it to look like there's a bit of a gap in the middle, and it takes away from the greenness of the whole model. So I'm going to paint the belt with this, and I'm also going to paint the crisscross on her top. While that's drying, Fire Lizard on a dry brush, just to give the hair a little bit of a goldy blondie speckle across the top. I'm also going to go into the nooks and crannies of the hair with a little bit of a darker wash a little later on. While I've got the dry brush head on, I'm going to take some skeleton bone, and I'm just going to go over the leather of the boots. I love skeleton bone on top of a leathery boot colour. I think it makes them look tired and aged and like they've been used and worn, and that's the look that we're after, and I think that's the look that I've got there. I'm really pleased with how that's come out. I'm doing exactly the same to her arrow pouch, which again, I want it to look like it's had some use, some wear, some life. So a bit of dry brushing. Now, there's the end result. That's the colour that we've got on there. It sticks out too much, so we need to tone that down. But I think you'll agree it separates the green in the dress really well. And to tone it down, I'm going to use some of this soft tone, and I'm just going to paint it across the belt. I'm also going to paint some of this soft tone into the hair to give the inner parts of the hair a darker layer as well. So don't be afraid. I always say this of washes, they do a great job. Now for the bow, this was printed, the actual bowstring, in plastic, and I didn't like it, so I cut it off, and I've just used a piece of cotton that I've used and folded twice, so it's in 4 different strands, and I've glued it into place, and that is the bow. I think the bow looks much better with a piece of cotton as opposed to the 3D printed bowstring that was already there. I've dry brushed it with silver and painted the handle brown. For the actual base, I'm just going to use some of this European sand colour, the European mud colour from Vallejo, and I am literally just going to splodge it across the base, right the way across. Nice, easy painted base, which looks incredible, and it adds to that final visual effect of Tauriel's whole sculpture. Easy to do, piece of cake. Once that's done, just to add a little bit of texture to it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this sand, some scenery sand, again from the Army Painter, and just sprinkle it on there. Sprinkle it on there a little bit profusely until it all settles in, and push it in with my fingers so it sticks into the sand, and take some of these grassy knolls and pop them on, and that is the base done and dusted. Really, really easy, great effect, easy to do, no hardship, but look at that final effect. Lovely, lovely. Link in the description where you can get this stuff from. Now to the bottom part of the base, and I'm using some Imperial Gold, and I'm just going to paint this via a dry brush right the way across the black matte Chaos Black base coat that's on there. So I'm using a flat brush initially just to paint some of they look like they're little braids right the way across, and once that's done I'm going to take a dry brush and I'm going to dry brush the gold on, and that's the base done. I don't want the base a lot, don't I? One of my favourites, but I've got to be honest, I really do like this one. I think the face has come out lovely. I think the colour of the dress has come out lovely. I'm really chuffed with it. Now, if you like what you see today, a couple of ways you can support the channel. Please support the channel by subscribing. If you want to join our Patreon, all the details will be in the description below, and it'll be lovely to have you on board. And if you want to buy anything from the item description, you know what I'm going to say here. Get it from the item description. A little bit from an Amazon affiliate link will kick back to the channel and allow me to carry on doing these works of art for you guys. Above all, comment, let me know what you think of this model, let me know what you think of Tauriel, let me know what you think of the Lord of the Rings and VXLabs, and all the comments that I like to hear from you guys, good and bad. Let me know everything, and I'll see you next time real soon on Greedy 3D.